You know what's strange? There are people who invite others into their home and feel fine, relaxed, almost excited, like nothing inside them tightens the moment someone says, "I'll be there in 10, I am not one of those people." And if this video already feels a little too accurate, you probably aren't either. For some of us, having people over doesn't feel social. It feels invasive. Not because we hate people, not because we're unfriendly, but because the moment someone steps into our space, something subtle but important is threatened, our sense of control. And here's the part most people get wrong. This isn't a personality flaw. It's not being dramatic. It's not being antisocial. By the end of this video, you'll understand why feeling this way isn't weakness at all, but a form of self-protection your brain quietly learned over time, and once you see it, you won't unsee it. Here's what most people miss. Your home isn't just where you live, it's where your nervous system finally exhales. Every detail inside it exists for a reason, even if you never consciously planned it that way. The lighting is set just low enough to not feel harsh. The temperature sits in that narrow comfort zone your body prefers. Your favorite mug is always in the same spot, not out of habit, but because your brain likes predictability more than novelty when it's trying to rest. The couch isn't placed randomly, neither is the chair you always sit in. Over time, you've built a rhythm, a quiet system that supports how you think, how you decompress, how you recover from the outside world. Your home runs on your internal settings, and when everything is aligned, you don't notice it working. You just feel calm. But systems are sensitive, and the moment something unfamiliar enters them, even something as harmless as another person, the balance shifts. People assume the discomfort comes from mess, that you hate hosting because you don't like cleaning or because you're too particular. But that's not it. The real issue isn't dirt, it's interruption. When someone comes into your home, they don't just occupy space, they alter it. Someone sits in the chair your body automatically relaxes into. Someone touches objects your hands recognize as familiar. Someone exists inside an environment that was quietly calibrated for you, not for sharing. Psychologists call this environmental comfort, the deep sense of ease that comes from being perfectly attuned to your surroundings. For some people, that comfort is broad and flexible. For others, it's precise, highly specific. And when it's disrupted, your brain doesn't interpret it as mild inconvenience. It reads it as loss of stability. Nothing is technically wrong, but nothing feels right either. And once that baseline shifts, everything else starts to feel heavier. This is where the exhaustion starts, long before anyone actually arrives. Hosting looks simple on the surface, but your brain knows better. It isn't one task. It's hundreds of small decisions stacked on top of each other, all demanding attention at the same time. You're not just cleaning, you're guest cleaning, the kind that suddenly makes you notice things you've successfully ignored for years. The grout in the bathroom, the dust on the door frames you've never once cared about until now. Then there's food. Not just what should we eat, but preferences, restrictions, timing, portions, drinks, too, multiple options. Water, coffee, tea. What kind of tea? Your brain starts running scenarios on autopilot, solving problems that haven't even happened yet, and you're already tired before anyone even knocks. This is cognitive load, the mental effort required to manage complexity, and hosting pushes it into overdrive without asking for permission. Once people arrive, something else quietly shifts. Your home stops being a refuge and starts functioning like a stage. Without meaning to, you step into a role. You're not just present anymore. You're managing the room. You're tracking energy, reading reactions, adjusting volume, pacing conversations, smoothing over silence before it gets awkward. And layered on top of that is something even heavier, impression management. You're no longer just aware of how you're coming across. You're aware of how your space is being read, the minimalist setup, the books on the shelf, the art on the wall. Even the throw pillows feel like they're being evaluated. Hosting turns your safe place into a performance. And even if no one is actually judging you, your brain doesn't wait for proof. It assumes the spotlight is on, and it stays on. Here's where it stops being social and starts being biological. Humans are territorial. We always have been. Long before comfort was aesthetic, it was survival. A controlled space meant safety. Predictability meant rest. Your home is the modern version of that instinct, a private zone where your body doesn't have to stay alert, where you can exist without performing, pants optional, silence allowed, dinner at 9 p.m., with no explanation required. But the moment guests arrive, that instinct is triggered. Your sanctuary becomes shared territory. The rules change. You can't fully relax because the space no longer belongs solely to you. Environmental psychologists describe this as territorial behavior, and your home is the clearest expression of it. When someone enters your space, your brain doesn't register it as neutral. It registers it as a boundary shift. And boundary shifts demand energy. Your home isn't just emotionally comfortable, it's neurologically supportive. Over time, you've adjusted everything to match what your nervous system can tolerate and recover from. The lights aren't too bright, the sounds are familiar, the smells are yours, the temperature sits exactly where your body doesn't have to fight it. None of this is accidental. It's regulation. Psychologists call this environmental mastery, the ability to shape your surroundings in ways that support well-being. But when guests arrive, your baseline disappears. Someone feels cold, so you turn the heat up. Now you're uncomfortable. Someone opens a window. The airflow changes. Someone talks louder than you'd choose. It's not the mess you fear. It's losing control. And when control over your environment slips, your nervous system pays the price, especially if you're sensitive to stimulation or prone to anxiety. There's another layer most people don't talk about, because it's harder to explain without sounding dramatic. Hosting is vulnerable. Not socially awkward vulnerable, but quietly, personally exposed. Your home isn't just a backdrop. It's an extension of you. It shows how you live, what you value, what you've chosen to keep close. When someone steps into that space, they're not just seeing furniture, they're seeing your inner world, externalized. That's intimate in a way meeting at a cafe never is. Researcher Brené Brown describes vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, and hosting hits all three at once. You don't know how your space will be interpreted. You risk being misunderstood. And you're emotionally exposed because your sanctuary is no longer private. You're not just hosting people, you're revealing yourself, and that takes more energy than most people realize. And then social media quietly made all of this worse. Somewhere along the way, having people over stopped being casual and started looking like a production. Perfectly arranged charcuterie boards, color-coordinated napkins, soft lighting that somehow looks effortless on camera. Everyone laughing at just the right moment. What you don't see is the mess right outside the frame, or how many times that candid moment was reset. This is social comparison at work, measuring your behind-the-scenes reality against someone else's highlight reel. Your anxiety compares chaos to choreography, and you lose every time. Suddenly, inviting someone over for coffee feels like it requires a budget, a plan, and emotional stamina you didn't sign up for. And the pressure isn't coming from your guests. It's coming from the image in your head. This is why meeting at a coffee shop feels easier, even if you're still social, still engaged, still present. Neutral spaces come with freedom. If the conversation drags, you can check the time. If your energy dips, you can leave. There's always an exit built in, but when people are in your home, that option disappears. You can't excuse yourself from your own sanctuary. You can't retreat to your usual comfort rituals. You're expected to stay on until the moment feels socially acceptable to end, which can stretch far longer than your nervous system wants. You're trapped in the very place where you're supposed to feel most at ease. For people who regulate through solitude, this loss of autonomy isn't minor. It's deeply unsettling. And once you feel it, it explains everything. So if you hate hosting, it doesn't mean you're cold, difficult, or antisocial. It means your comfort, peace, and sense of safety are deeply tied to your environment. Inviting people into that environment feels like voluntarily disrupting your own regulation, and your brain resists it for a reason. There's nothing broken about that. Some people recharge through stimulation, others recharge through control and calm. If meeting friends at cafes works better for you, that's not avoidance. It's self-awareness. If you prefer bringing wine to someone else's place and never returning the invitation, that's not selfish. Protecting your sanctuary isn't selfish. It's self-awareness. And once you understand this, you can stop forcing yourself into situations that drain you just to look normal. In the next video, we'll break down why people who love organizing aren't controlling at all. They're regulating their nervous system.